Hey everyone, and welcome back for session 2. We're going to be looking at Google Docs and how we can create them, organize them, make them into templates so that we can push them into Google Classroom and all of that jazz, because it is one of the most important things that we will be using, and using them effectively is pretty important. So we're going to look at some of those facets today. So I'm going to head on over to my Drive. But you can get to Docs by going to the Docs app, or you can go through Drive. So I opened up a tab, which brings me to google.com. I'm going to head on over to my Waffle, where my app launcher is. And again, I mentioned before, I can go straight to the Docs app, or I can go into my Drive, depending on, just the comfort level and how I want to create my documents. Everybody has their own preference. So I personally like to go through Drive, which is what I'm going to do today. Okay, so again, my Drive has a lot of folders in it. Yours might not look like this. Let's hope that it doesn't. It's a little bit messy, but what I like to do is I like to keep things in specific folders. So if I'm creating templates for my team, I will keep them in my team folder. If I'm making templates for a specific content area, I will put them into a specific folder for that content area. It just helps keep everything a little bit more organized. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to head on down to, let's see, my folder. So the other thing to note, and we discussed this in the previous session, was about how your folders live on top, and then any rogue files you have will live on the bottom, which is why it's important to kind of keep everything organized in such a way. So I'm going to go into, actually just going to do a search. So I put in this particular folder that I'm going to be working from, okay? And I am going to create a folder in here for my templates, okay? So I'm going to click New. Give it a minute to open. And we're going to call this template folder. So I'm going to do all of my creating inside of here today. And we'll talk about what it means to create templates for Google. We're going to talk about the types of share settings within just a document. So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a folder inside of a shared folder. We talked about that again in the last session about sharing folders. So you can give people view only access to a folder, or you can give them edit access where they can drop things in, make changes. So that's what this is. So anything I create inside of here is going to hold the parent permissions of this folder, right? So I have a set of permissions on this folder, which are inherited by this folder. So anything I'm going to create in here, you'll notice, is going to come up with. So I'm going to click New. And I'm going to click Document. So this is, like I mentioned, you can create Google Documents either by going into the direct app or into here. So we're going to click Google Docs. And what'll pop up is a notification that you're creating this inside of a shared folder. So anybody who's on this folder will have access to see this. If I don't want people to see it, I can create this outside of a shared folder, or I can go into the document and I could change the permissions on there, which I will demonstrate for you. But just know that when you create something out here inside of your Drive, it's only yours until you share it. Same thing with a folder. It's only yours until you share it. So, and you have the flexibility to pull back permissions at any point in time. So I'm going to click Create and Share. And I'm going to give this a name. Give it a name real quick. So I'm going to work within, we'll call it our choice menu, right? Because we want to look at a little bit of how to create these choice menu boards, templates, and adding some media into them. So we'll call this literacy board. So that's a good practice, always giving your document a name first. You can always come back and change it. It does not have to stay this way, but it's just good to get into the habit of making sure your thing has a title. So I am going to go over to the share settings to start with, because that that was impacted by the fact that this is in a shared folder. If I look up here right now, you'll see that there is a head, and if I hover over it, it says shared with 30 people. That means that there's 30 people on this folder, so 30 people have access to this. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull away the access to the document. Okay, so it tells me everybody that this is shared with. So these are all of my contributors. I could simply go in here and start removing them one by one. So you'll notice that if I click on editor, it gives me the different levels of permissions that everybody can have. So I can still have these people shared on here and change them to just commenter or viewer. I could also give them temporary access. And giving temporary access could be something that you're doing for a substitute teacher or a student teacher. So you can say, you have access for the next 3 weeks that you're with my class. And then it pulls the permissions away so you don't forget and have like a million people on an account viewing a document. But so what I will do is I'm just going to demonstrate for you how I can remove everybody in my shared folder. So I do have to go through one by one because everybody has access on the folder. So I have to go through and take everybody off. If I needed to add somebody back, it's pretty easy. I would just come up here and I would start typing in someone's name. And again, the person doesn't need to be in your domain. You will get a notification that the person is outside the domain, but you can invite others to collaborate on a document. So that's how I would go about pulling people off of my document if I wanted to. Okay. There are other components to this share setting. So if I click on my settings wheel, it'll tell me what these people can do. So editors can change permissions and share. I could take this away from the people who it's shared with, and viewers and commenters can see the option to download, print, and copy, which is interesting because you could pull that right away from people as well. So if you're sending something out to families, that is for view only, or to anyone for view only, you could disable the option to do the download, print, and copy. So just know that that is available to you in here. So again, up here are my contributors. These are the folks that I've invited in. And then down here are my more universal settings. So when you're sharing your link with someone, maybe this is the link that you are putting out in Remind. Maybe you're embedding this link someplace else. This is the link that decides who has access when they click on it. Okay. So it's restricted. Only people added up here can access it. I could change that to be anybody within my domain. So this is my domain. If it's on your school domain, it'll probably say your school's name, and then this is anybody with the link. So if I click on it, again, you'll notice that it says viewer, commenter, or editor. You can just simply have it as people can view this document, comment on it, or edit the actual document, depending on what it is that you are using this for. So we'll leave it as viewer, and then you click done. So those are just some of the elements of how you can share your document. Now we're going to look into maybe making this into a template, right? So I'm going to start by giving it a title. So one thing to note, you have up here, this is your menu bar, right? All of your tools for the style of your document. You have this right here. And what you'll use the types of text for is for screen readers. So depending on the type that you're picking out from here, it's the way the screen reader knows how to read it. So a screen reader is something that is used for accessibility. Multiple means of using it could be for any type of disability, or just for anybody who needs some assistance, right? So it's always good to start off with the title because that announces and it tells the screen reader what it is capturing. And then you would do the subsequent either headings or normal text based on what you wanted to look at. And you'll notice on the side, you're going to see your headings populating over here. So I'm going to call this literacy board. Okay. And you'll see that my my structure is starting to unfold right here. We're going to heading 1. So now you could also customize these. So if I wanted to, I will call this directions. And what I'll do is I'll put, please use this board to complete board as a guide to work on your literacy projects. So again, we're building right now a choice menu board. So it could look different. Could be process, could be at the end of unit summative project, whatever it is. A choice board could be used for anything, enrichment, or it could be used for a supplemental. However you want to make it come to life. But we're going to use this board to guide the literacy project. Select up to 3 squares diagonally, horizontal, and vertical. Okay, we'll go back and we'll fix the grammar later. Right? So you'll see that this says normal text. What I want to change this to, I want to change my font. I'm going to make it, condensed. I just prefer that. And I am going to make it condensed to 12. Right? And then what I'm going to do here is I want this to be my normal text. So I decided that cabin condensed at size 13 is what I want my normal text to be moving forward in this document. So see here, it says normal text. What I can do is I can update. I'm going to click, oops, redo that. Okay, so I'm going to change it back again. I made a boo-boo, make it 13. I come here and I am going to update normal text to match that. So now, as I go through, anytime I type in my normal text, it's going to be this font and at that size, okay? So I gave my directions, right? I'm gonna insert my table. So you can insert many things in your documents. You can insert images, and again, you could pull that in from your computer, from the web. What's good about that is that you could search right from the document. Students don't have to go out. You don't have to go outside. You could search right in here for anything and insert it into your document. We could also insert from your photos if you use Google Photos, URL, and camera. So if you're asking someone to take a photo of themselves, they can take a photo and insert it, or you can do the same for them, okay? And then simply from your computer if you had something. Again, we have drawings, so Google Draw is inside of your drive. You can have students create drawings themselves or create graphics that go in here. Plethora of information and stuff that we can add. We will get to adding in a link in a couple of minutes, but for right now, we're going to focus on the table because this is a menu. We're going to make it a tic-tac-toe board. So we'll do a 3x3. And now I have this. I want to make my cells a little bit larger. So how I do that, and again, this is how I like to approach it. I highlight all, I right click, right? And what I do is I right click and I head on down to table properties. And what this does, I could change my table border. I could change the background of my cells. I can make any modifications about the table right here. But I could change my row height. So my minimum row height will be, let's say 2 inches. And the table is aligned left. I'll just leave it as left. But I want my row height to be 2 inches. Let's see, okay. And then there you go. So now they're all evenly distributed. So I don't have to worry upon starting my table. So again, the idea is that this right here, so I'm going to align my center space to say free choice. Because inside of here, this is going to be their free choice. So they're either going to be going across to do activities, going diagonal to do activities, or going vertically to do activities. But again, if they hit that free choice square, that's going to allow them to pick from anywhere on the menu. So they might like these three and do those, or if they're going diagonal this way, they might decide they're going to do the top, the bottom right, and then this free choice might be over here. But again, it's all about what they want to do and how they want to represent their learning or the path that they want to take. So I'm creating this, right? I'm going to come on over here and click insert because I am going to insert an image, and I'm going to put in, let's look at choice, see what populates. Okay, I like this image. I'm going to click that and I will click insert, and you'll see that the image pops up in here. All right, but I do need to be mindful that if I am putting this image in, that I add my alt text on here, which is just, this is choice image. This image is a blackboard with arrows that says choice. Right? Because again, we're keeping in mind that if we do have a screen reader on here, it will be going over the image. And is it meant to give information or is it decorative? It's decorative. Okay. So I put in my alt text on my image. So now what I would do is I'm going to go about building the information that I want my students to be doing. So this might be choice one. Okay. We'll put some in here. In working through your, let's say your first choice, you might put something in here like a book review, right? So think about the tools that you have at your disposal. So I have one within Google Forms. So choice one would be use the book review form to submit your feedback for other students. On what you read. So use the book review form to submit your feedback for other students on what you read. These are suggestions for others. Like reading reviews online. So again, we're giving them some experience with kind of giving their perspective on something that they might have read. So I have a book review form right here. This is ready to go. So what I would do is I want to link this, because remember, I'm making this into a choice board, which is a hyperdoc. If you ever hear that term hyperdoc, because you're adding media into a document, I'm going to head on over to the thing that I want to share out. So remember, since this is a form, this is not the form session, but I will talk about it here. We have to make sure that we send this or we embed this the right way. So we don't ever come up to the link up here and share it out that way, because that will give people access to the actual editing of the form. We always want to head on over to send, and we want to click on the link, the universal icon for a link, and we want to copy this link right here. I could also click shorten and it'll give me a shorten. I click copy. Again, another thing to be mindful of, always come over to your settings. If you're not staying within your domain, you're going to want to make sure this is unchecked. So if you're sending this out to folks that are not in your domain, if you're using your school domain and the DOE domain, you might want to uncheck this. Same thing with parents. Otherwise, you would just leave that on so it stays within your school domain. So I copied my link. I'm going to come over here and I am going to create a hyperlink with these words. So use the book form. I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to come up over here and I'm going to look for my chain link. So again, I mentioned before that it's universal. You're going to look for that link. And it tells me the text that it's going to hyperlink. And I paste in the URL to the form. Okay, so there we go. We already have one piece of media put into our choice menu. So that is the first one. So again, this is very basic what I'm doing. I'm not going to get too specific and in depth, but I am going to add a couple more choices on here so you can see what this looks like as it starts to roll out. So I'll just demonstrate one more choice, which we could say watch story online. Choose a story. Okay, we'll do that. So choose a book from story online to watch and listen to. Then open the Flipgrid and read one of your own books like the actors did in Story Online. Okay, so this is a twofold activity. You could break this particular one into two separate activities, but choose a book from Story Online. So Story Online is right over here, and it has the SAG-AFTRA Guild Award winners reading books. So it's a really good way for students to hear, work with fluency and kind of listen to how different intonations sound while reading books. So we're giving them an opportunity to here listen to this. So I'm going to copy this URL. So it could be any URL, right? And I'm going to hyperlink this, choose a book from Story Online, and I'll copy that, highlight that, click on the link, and I'm going to put it right here, and click apply to watch and listen. Then open the Flipgrid and read one of your own books like the actors did in Story Online. So now this is twofold. They're watching it, and then again, you don't have to do this. You can maybe have them kind of either, again, write a book review, whatever it is, but I'm working within the fluency range here. So I might want them to come on over to one of the Flipgrids, and I might want to have them on here sort of narrate their own version of a book that they have in their house. So it could be anything, right? Because they're taking what they learned either in class and then from watching one of the other actors read a book to them. So they're kind of applying what it is that they learned this way. So I'm just going to open up my Flipgrid. I will grab one of my, grab one of my topics. So I'm going to go into my remote learning, right? So I already have some of these, set up. And I will grab this one. So let's see. We're just doing this as a sample. So what I'm going to do is I'll click share, and I'm going to copy this link right here. Right? I'm going to come on back over, and I'm going to highlight, open the Flipgrid. Okay, so again, these are the things that you have to have set up prior, but just want to show you how everything sort of intermingles. So now we have two different options on our choice board, and what you'll do is you'll keep going through and filling in. Like these are things that you could be using over and over again, but this is a HyperDoc. So it is something that is very resourceful and can be used over time, and you could make copies of this and you can change it from content to content. One of the other things I'm going to put in my directions, because I did not do this before. So now you're going to notice that I'm back up here. I'm going to bullet my directions because I need to put in another place. I'm going to tell my students to fill in with color onto the template because this is going to go into Google Classroom. They're going to have this for themselves. And I want to know which ones they chose so I can go back and look at it. So I'm going to say to them, please fill each square with color. Actually, we want to, not each square, we want to fill each square you chose with one color. So what that would look like is if I am student A, right, I decide I'm going across this way. What I'm doing to show that I did choice 3, I'm clicking inside of the square, just like this. I'm heading up. Remember, we're focusing on our toolbar up here. This is our background color. So this is going to be the background for this square because I am inside of here. I click on that and I'm going to fill them all with this color yellow. Okay. The hardest part about this is remembering which color you chose. So this is what you would do to kind of count to see which space you are with the colors that you picked. And this is what the students would do to identify which three that they chose. Again, it's just a good visual representation of what they picked on the choice menu. So I'm going to undo those. So to undo that, I could either click here. And the other thing I could do is I can go into version history. So something to keep in mind, and one of the big tools that we like to keep at the forefront just in case, is version history. So when you come on over to File and you click version history, you could see the progress over time. So again, this is for your document that you created, but also your students' document. So anything you have access to, you can see the history over time in case you needed to either copy something from the document and re-add it back in, or if you just needed to revert back to an older version. So over here, we'll see that this is when I created it. If I click on this caret right here, what it will do is it will open all the modifications that I've made, right? So if I want to see the modification that was done here, I will tap on it and you'll see that this is a change that I made, and it will progress with each version that I click on. If by any chance I need to change back to what it was, so I will click on this one, see how it does that. And then here, I can simply click. I could either make a copy of the version, I can name the version, or I could restore back to this version to begin with. So this is just another way to kind of keep track of what's happening in case you have any errors or if you need to copy things or see the progress of either your work or even your students' work. So I'm just going to go back out. I'm not going to change anything. I am going to undo my colors. So I'm going to highlight all three. I'm going to click on my background paint and I'm going to click transparent, and that is it. So those are some of the key components of working within your docs and kind of making them so that they can be templates for your students when you're transferring them over to Google Classroom. The last thing I'm going to talk about is some of the tools that you can find in here that could be usable for students to either translate the document or to use it for voice typing. So I have the ability to support my students who of other languages with using this as well. If I click translate document, it's going to make a copy of this board in the other language that I choose. And it's not going to write over this one. It's going to make a direct copy. So if I chose Greek and I click translate, it's going to make another copy of my choice board for me in Greek for my students who might need this. Now, just keep in mind that it might not be a perfect translation, but it is still a translation to give them an access point, an entry point to whatever it is that we're doing. So that's your translate feature. And then you also have, if I come back over to my original, if I click here, there's also the voice typing tool. So voice typing allows for me to click, let me click out. And if I click to speak, it will pick up everything I am saying and it will type it into the document for me. So tools for you to use, tools for the students to use based on their need. Last thing I want to reference to you is I'm going to go back to that translated copy. I want to make sure it is in the right folder. So up here, we have these options, which is starred and then move. If I click on this is going to tell me which folder it's in. So right now this is living in my drive. So it made a copy and it just went into my drive. I need to move this into that original folder I started with, which was my templates for Google, which is up here. I don't want my stuff to be all over the place. So I need to go into the folder that I began with, and I need to make sure that that is inside of there. Again, these are just little things that will help you stay organized. So this is my folder. I'm going to go into and then here it is, my templates for Google, because I need to make sure that everything is in the right spot. And I'm going to click move here. And again, whatever the permissions are, that is what the permissions will now be for this. And you'll notice that that icon changed from the lock to the heads for shared. So now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly head over to Google Classroom, and we're going to see how these can be attached to Google Classroom.